Who's Anna English? Can she help me to accurately understand British idioms that I have never heard of before? Is it better to learn British English or American English? And what does she see as the biggest challenges and obstacles for improving English? These are just some of the questions we're going to answer in this video, but before we get started, subscribe to this channel and send me your comments. Don't forget to check out the links in the descriptions below, including how to stay in touch with me as well as Anna. Now, let's go. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome to English Musings, where I explore the people and ideas that represent the diversity as well as the past, present, and future of the world's most widely spoken and accepted language, Esperanto. Maybe in about 500 years, but for now, it's English. And who better to accompany you on this journey than a multilingual, native-speaking, multicultural, experienced American TEFL teacher who has not only taught thousands of people worldwide, but also is a lifelong learner himself. But more about me in future episodes. For now, let's get to know Anna. Well, all right, welcome everyone, and welcome to Athar's English Musings. I'm delighted today to have a guest, someone I have taught with, laughed with, and compared far too many British and American expressions, and that is Anna Hartley, also known as Anna English. Now, in addition to being an experienced and qualified TEFL teacher, she's a special needs tutor, a psychotherapist, a dog lover, and a proud RP-speaking Brit. And she still can't believe that Americans call trousers pants. But anyway, Anna, good to have you here. And before we dive into idioms, accents, and all the fun stuff, for those people who haven't met you before, get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got to be doing what you're doing now.
So thanks for having me. Like the story of my life is I end up in careers that are always by mistake. I wanted to be a vet or a veterinarian, as you guys would say, but I was too bad at school. I was disruptive and I was expelled from every school. So I left with no qualifications. Didn't go to university. Anyway, I studied in Italy when I was in my 20s and I really enjoyed languages. And then I worked in Spain for a year. So I can kind of survive in those languages. But the English thing, I found Clubhouse, social audio app, where we met. I guess during the pandemic, I was asked to join because I was on another platform called Stereo, and lots of us were asked to join Clubhouse. And then I found some English rooms, and they were really unfriendly. And then I found English Corner with Johnny USA, and I ended up helping out, meeting lots of amazing people. And I thought, hang on, I'm doing this for fun. I should be doing it and be paid for it. So I got a qualification, my TEFL qualification, and here I am. And now I speak with Spanish and Italian and French learners. I teach them business and technical English. I've taught on lots of other platforms and just lots of general teaching. And I teach English now as a private tutor for special educational needs children. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into teaching English. And my mother was a real grammar pedant. We couldn't even open our mouth without her correcting us. So I've always had an interest in English and how we speak it.
And that's a great backstory. And what is it about the language? This is something that you were immersed in, you grew up in, your mom was dousing you with, making sure that your grammar was perfect and all that. But there's something about it that also drew you to it from a personal standpoint that makes it interesting. And I'm going to guess that you did not choose to teach to become independently wealthy. It is not
God, no. No.
It's not the thing that I or you or anyone has been drawn to because, I think I'll get rich. I'll be a teacher in English. No, what is it that draws you to English?
I loved essay writing because my creativity is crazy. So I used to be very good at writing essays, and I quite enjoyed the fact that they give me a topic and say, can you write about a sentence? And I'd turn it into a story, and it got more kind of crazy as the story went on. So I loved essay writing. I like that creativity. And also I have a thing, which is when people mispronounce words, it kind of makes me cringe. And I thought, how can I do this better? How can I help people to speak English so it sounds like it should be? And I think it's probably the schooling from my mother, who, we couldn't say something like Ben and me. She's like, no, it's Ben and I. I don't know, maybe it's kind of genetic or maybe it's ingrained in my DNA. So that's kind of how I got into it.
So it's interesting. As you have now been teaching adults and children as well, what have you found to be the biggest struggles and challenges, or maybe even the assumptions that people are making in order to acquire these language skills? Let's first talk about those international English language learners who are non-native speakers. What do you think they struggle with the most? And what are the things perhaps they're getting not quite right in terms of their approach to learning the language?
I think one of the pressures is people compare themselves. We all have different learning styles. I, for example, am an audiovisual learner, so I learn listening and seeing things. Some people are audio learners, some people are kinesthetic, some people are audiovisual, and there's seven other, which I can't remember off the top of my head. If you don't know your learning style, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle with how you learn something. Also, I think they spend far too much time comparing themselves to their friends. Oh, my friend did a 6-week English course and now he's fluent. No, he's not. He may be fluent in restaurant English, but he's not fluent. I think people struggle with their native tongue gets in the way of pronunciation, like in Spanish and Italian particularly. I watched I walked. They pronounce the ed, and then like in Persian, they put an e in front of lots of things. Ispinich, istreet. That gets in the way. And English is a crazy language. It doesn't even make sense. And I'm trying to teach people to learn it because it's so difficult and so diverse. So those are three things I think which are very challenging for students.
I totally agree with you. Also, there's a lot of things that I come across, and if people ask me the question, what's the rule? And I'm saying, there's not really a rule here, just kind of know this because sometimes it doesn't follow a pattern. There's so many things that have evolved and changed with the English over the centuries that spellings are kind of screwing people over and pronunciation of certain words that look the way they look, but that's not how you say them,
Yeah.
Let's kind of dive into some of these areas and nuances of the language that really interest you most. Idioms, figures of speech. We'll touch on those as well. But let's first go to these differences. One of the questions that people ask me, and they probably will ask you, is that, should I learn American English or British English? Or, which is right? Which is better? I mean, first of all, what's your answer to that? And then we'll talk about some of those differences that are interesting to both of us. Yeah.
Well, naturally, because I'm British, I'm going to say British English because it's far superior. No, I'm kidding. But what you shouldn't do is try and speak with an accent of a British accent or an American accent, because you should be proud of your cultural heritage and keep your language of origin accent. It's who you are. There's no point saying to an Arabic speaker, you need to speak American English. It doesn't matter. Whether you want to learn British English or American English, it doesn't matter. But honestly, in British English, the thing is becoming Americanized. So you guys are taking over the world again. So it doesn't really matter, is the honest truth. I don't have a preference. If students want to spell something American, like, the American way or the British way, it doesn't make any difference to me as long as you learn the vocabulary.
Absolutely. And then as they're acquiring some of those words, the vocabulary, just to piggyback on what you said, by the way, I don't know if that's a American term or British term. Do you guys say piggyback?
I think it's a newish thing. I'd never heard it personally, but we know what it means, yeah.
Okay, all right. To piggyback on what you said, when we talk about those differences, there are certain words that are very different or commonly used, common everyday words that we would use. We mentioned earlier things like pants and trousers. That's just one example. And then you have torch versus flashlight. And and chips and crisps, right? Fish and chips.
Crisps, yeah.
But what are some of the other ones that you can think of, and also some of the ones that kind of come to mind as people are learning these words?
Bill and check. It's just a word we use for check. Diaper and nappy.
Mm-hmm.
Muffler and exhaust. Bonnet and hood.
How about we try it with a little game here? I'm going to mention some words to you. And you're going to tell me the equivalent. Sneakers, when you're going out running, jogging, might even call them joggers. But sneakers, things that you exercise in, play outside in, what are those?
Gym shoes or trainers.
But not sneakers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no because to me a sneaker goes when you walk. I don't know why. That's because that's what I think they do. No, not never sneakers. No,
All right. So now when you
never.
go shopping, you're
Okay.
going into the grocery store or to the bank and you're going to get in line, right? You get in line?
No, we stand in a queue. A
A
queue.
queue.
And British people love queuing. And if anybody queue barges you, then you will know about it because it's a real social faux pas to jump the queue. A
Queue is an
queue.
interesting
Yeah.
word too from a spelling standpoint. I mean, it's so there's a lot of words that come from French. This is one of them, I think.
Yeah.
Queue. It's just, there's a lot of vowels there. How about a truck that carries lots of things that are carrying goods or various products from one
Yeah.
place to another?
Um,
You call that
a lorry.
a lorry.
Lorry. But we do use truck as well, or a lorry, or HGV, which is a heavy goods vehicle.
Heavy goods. Oh, so like
Yeah.
we use the three
Heavy
letter
goods. Yeah.
for a small passenger vehicle. We'd say SUV for a small passenger vehicle. So you're saying for a large.
Yeah, we say that here.
Oh, you do say SUV.
A
Large
heavy
truck?
goods vehicle. Yeah, heavy goods vehicle.
HGV. I have never heard that.
HGV. Yeah, HGV. So you say, I've got my HGV license. It means you can be a lorry driver. Truck is more, people do use truck, but it's generally lorry.
When you go to the place to put in the fuel for your car, do you go to a gas station?
We go to a petrol station generally. I've got to go and get fuel. But we say a petrol station. We don't put gas into our cars unless it's an LPG vehicle. But no, it's either I've got to go to the petrol station or I've got to get some fuel.
All right, so we touched on a few basic words, like everyday words, right? I want you to translate these for me if you can, because I've got a bunch of words that I think you should be very familiar with, which I have no idea how they're used. And this is going to be an education for me. What does it mean when you're knackered? You're knackered?
Well, there's a couple of meanings. Polite version is you're really tired, you're exhausted. I've had a really long day at work and I'm absolutely knackered. So that's one version. It also means you can say, my car is knackered. It means it's broken. Or knackered. We can also say shagged out. I'm shagged out is the same as knackered. It means I'm really tired. I'm exhausted. It actually derives from the sexual act. But we use knackered or shagged out all the time. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to touch on a few others, I'm sure, that are like that.
Yeah.
All right, so if someone is really chuffed about something, how are they feeling?
I've got a new job and I'm chuffed to bits. It means I'm over the moon. I'm really happy. I'm really happy. Sometimes say I'm chuffed to bits or I'm well chuffed.
As I started to go through some of these words, I'm telling you, some of these, I'm coming across them for the first time. When we have something that we're not happy about, we would go to some complaints department. But apparently, there are also people who whinge. Is that right? Whinge? Or is it wing?
Oh yeah, whinging. Yeah, yeah. To whinge. If you whinge, it means you stop your whinging. Like you might say to a child, "Stop whinging. I'm going to feed you soon." And it's like that kind of thing, whinging, or to be a whinger. And the Australians call us whinging poms, as in whinging Brits, But it means it's like what kids do when they're hungry. Stop whinging, or whinging can be another way of saying stop whinging.
So we would use the word whining in this case, like somebody's whining.
Yeah.
Is that similar?
Yeah, but whinging is more. What's the word? I think it's more onomatopoeic. It really describes that because that's what it sounds like. You say, "Oh, she's such a whinging old cow." That's how we refer to a woman, perhaps, or he was whinging about his job or his girlfriend. It's people who complain incessantly. Generally, is what it means.
Got it. All right, so we'll go through a few more, but I think we're going to touch on some idioms as well, and I want to talk about how some of these words and references are really reflecting something about British society, British attitudes, even towards sexual references, things like that I think do convey a certain part of the community in which people are speaking, like how they think about certain things. Let's go to a few more words. So, some of these I kind of get. If I say I'm not keen on something, I mean that I didn't know that was a British thing, but yeah, we use that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what else we have here? Dottery? What does it mean to be dottery?
Oh, so if we're a bit say, oh my mother's getting very old, she's a bit doddery. I mean, she's doddering, she's a bit doddery, as in like a bit sort of unbalanced, lacking in mobility and a sort of cognitive function. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
Doddery.
And all right. Okay. Okay. So, and it's generally used to describe people who are weak or older, or not only that.
Older, generally, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
generally. Or you could say, oh, I've had an operation on my knee. I'm still a bit doddery in the morning, but it's more used with older people, actually, definitely older people. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe it's not quite my cup of tea to kind of dive into all these words and references because I probably won't be using many of them, but maybe, who knows? Let's take a short break. What are some of your pet peeves? What would you say are your major pet peeves right now?
Native speakers who have bad grammar when they should know better. Lazy grammar, as in like things like they replaced words. I was properly mad. It should be I was really mad. That kind of thing. Or saying, I was walking down the road and I saw an actual dog. Like, what reality are you living in? What do you mean an actual dog? It was real, wasn't it? But they put actual in front of everything. We went on an actual, oh, he took me to an actual restaurant. Really? What's my other pet peeve? People who use filler, and we all do. I mean, is my worst. I used to have a boss, and we did a prevent, which is like a safeguarding meeting, and I counted it. She said, 95 times in the space of 30 minutes. You know, uh, no, I mean, do you get me? That's another one. Yeah, I speak English. Yes, I do. So those kind of filler words, which people use over and over again, and it becomes habitual. They don't know they're doing it, and it becomes actually a really bad habit because they're coherent people, but they become enmeshed in this repetitive cycle of, well, I went down the road, then I went to Spain, and then yes, I do freaking know because you've said it 65 times. Mm. Those are my pet peeves, definitely.
That's a good one. I have to say that, and this is something to really importantly reinforce, that there are many, many native speakers who speak English extremely poorly. Okay, and
absolutely.
And one of the things I wanted to do, and that you and I both have fun with, is accents, right? So if I'm talking to you, right, and I'd say something every time I end a sentence, right, and as soon as I speak it, and then you're listening for what I'm going to say, right, and the next thing is, oh, I saw that guy at the restaurant, right, and as soon as I saw him, he turned around, right, and he just recognized me immediately, right. So it's like, right. I got it. So, and
got it. Yeah.
And so there's, I guess, different purposes that sometimes filler words fill, or rather filler words provide. They serve a purpose. Yeah. Sometimes it's to provide you a little bit of time to think about what you're saying. But definitely. Even when people have plenty of time, they're just throwing in that word like randomly. Like it's just literally just filling a space, and they want no space in between.
Legit. Yeah, legit is another one. Really? Legit, they do.
Well, the other one is that there's one, and I know one of our mutual friends, mutual acquaintances, is also aware of this one, and it's the word bro, which is now getting to be very, very heavily, if not overused, for both genders, by the way, or many genders. I can say more than two if there are, right? Okay, depending on your belief system. So the point is, I know my daughters and their friends will call each other bro. And now what I hear is learners picking it up, and they're saying it to teachers and people, and regardless of situation and context. Hey, how are you doing, bro? It's very good to hear you. I want to improve my English, bro. And I was like, okay, but you don't need to call me bro. Do you get that?
Very good accent. Yes. Well, I suppose in English the equivalent is mate. All right, mate. What are you doing, mate? And I remember a friend of mine's father said to this man who kept saying mate. He said, He said, I'm neither your ship's captain. He said, I'm neither. He said, to stop calling mate. Yeah, that's a, or bruv. English we say bruv a lot. All right, bruv. All right, bruv. I think bro is taking over though. All right, bro. And they do the fist pump, you know?
Yeah.
All right, bro. Yeah, definitely.
Well, that was good. So, any other pet peeve, things that kind of irk you and get you to the point of saying, ah,
Um, I have to be honest. When I first started teaching English, my pet peeve was being corrected by non-native speakers. They would try and correct my grammar, and I'd be
okay.
thinking, "Hang on, this is how I've always spoken. I was born speaking this language." But then I realised some of the time they were correct, particularly our friends from Iran, because in my opinion, they speak better English than we do linguistically. So they were often correct. But if I said it would say something and they'd say it's not like that, you shouldn't say that. I said, well, if I spent most of my life saying this, I'm not going to change now. That was my ego probably having my grammar corrected. Now I don't really care. What else is a pet peeve of mine? People who say American English is better than British English. That's a pet peeve. Only in a joking way. I'm fine. What else?
I think you are well founded in your.
Americans are easier to understand.
For
Stand.
those of
Yeah.
our viewers who caught my last episode with Mark Byron Dallas, one of the things that he explained very
Yeah.
well was that when people are saying that they don't understand a certain accent, or that they'll even talk about themselves, they'll say, my accent is bad, even though they're speaking perfectly intelligibly, like we can understand them perfectly well. They'll say, my accent is bad, or I don't like to hear that
Hmm.
accent, or this accent, or I can't understand this accent. What people are really saying is that they don't have familiarity. They don't have familiarity and experience in listening to it and interacting with that
Hmm.
language.
Yeah.
And I've heard people from one part of the world saying that about another part of the world, saying, oh, I don't understand Indian speakers, or Indian people are saying, I can't understand people who speak English who are from France or whatever. I mean, just as an example. But the point
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
it's familiarity. That's the issue. And
Definitely.
and for better or for worse, I would argue for worse, that American English is everywhere, kind of like McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But when I want to look for great prose, I want to see well written English or well spoken English that's structured well, that's expressing themselves beautifully. I'll often look for British English for that. There are great speakers who are American speakers, and great speakers who are English speakers, but it has nothing to do with their accent. It has
No,
to do with so much else.
definitely. Yeah, I think it's they say I don't people say to me, I don't understand your accent. And I would say, well, if you don't understand my accent, you're in trouble because my accent is neutral. It means what you're really saying is you don't understand it because you're not used to it. So I always say the difference between American English and British English is that in British English the vowels are shorter, in American English the vowels are longer. You elongate the vowels, and that's the only difference. Because we do speak the same language. Pretty much. Although we have a lot of French influence, obviously, because we were conquered by the French. And you've devised your own language in America. But we understand each other, you know?
So, speak a little bit to how your own way of speaking and communicating has evolved and changed as you grew up. Because, as you said, it's standardized now. You, I assume, like anyone else,
Mm.
started to speak like the people around you, wherever you are living and growing up. And
Of
then
course, yeah.
you got accustomed to other ways of doing it. But I think what people need to
Mm.
understand is that the diversity of the language and the varieties of it are really what make the language so beautiful. So talk about how it has
Yeah.
changed with
Yeah.
you over time.
So when I was a child, I was born in actually in London, but I was raised in Yorkshire, where the accent is what I call this historical drama accents. Where they all talk like that. Hey, love, all right, master, can you come to the shop because I need to go to the workhouse, that kind of thing. So my grandparents spoke like that, and my great grandparents spoke like that, but my parents didn't, because in Yorkshire, when they say where there's muck, there's brass, it means where there's dirt, there's so they were industrialists. So what they did in those days, when anybody made any money, they put their money into education or antiques or jewelry, things they could, like pass on. So my parents went away to school. Like they went to schools, private paying, fee paying schools. Whereas my grandfather, when he was a child. He didn't because his family they couldn't afford it. He got a scholarship to a grammar school. And then my other side of the family, my both my grandparents had right Yorkshire accent. They talk like that, you know. So when I was born, I was raised in Yorkshire because they moved from London, and I spoke like everybody else did. You know, all my friends spoke like some of them spoke with the Yorkshire accent, some of them didn't. My accent at home was what I call RP. But I went to a local school. That's how I learned English. But when I was like up to the age of about 10, I was educated in Yorkshire. So I was speaking with a Yorkshire accent, all like that. My mum said to me one day, she said, can you count? What have you learned? And I said, blah, 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 11, 12, 13. She said, it's 13. I went, okay. So, because there was a lot of stigma attached to accents, and there still is a lot, she said to me, well, because I was so useless at school anyway, I couldn't get into any local school. So I ended up going to a boarding school like 300 miles away where nobody spoke with a Yorkshire accent. Nobody spoke like I did. They all spoke like poshish like I do. My cousins who stayed in Yorkshire, they all talk like that. Hey, up, how are you, love? I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, I gung. And they work with horses, so that they always say, get off, get over. So I have an inflection in my accent. When I'm with people from Yorkshire, you can hear it. Hear it. There's another example of it. Instead of saying hear it, hear it. So that's in my DNA. But I make my accent is a little bit chameleonic, if that's a word I can make up. It will change with who I am, very much so, yeah.
So talk a little bit about the perception that people have that one accent, particularly within the same country, the same region, is considered to be the superior accent. One thing that I remember Mark Byron Dallas was talking about was a thing called accent bias that people have, you know, that there's a sense...
Oh, absolutely, there is. Oh, 100%, yeah.
Right? Yeah. What would you say about that?
So, yeah, I think that's very true. Northern English, like Yorkshire, County Durham, where they speak like that, man. You go to Newcastle and they speak like that. Why, man? There is a real bias because a lot of people can't understand those accents. Or Liverpudlian, which is, yeah, you do you da, like they speak like that, like, you know, getting Gerald Lecky, and or Birmingham when they talk like that all the time and I'm on the toe. Or if you come from the West Country, you speak real slow like that. I'm just going down to the beach to go and get my chickens in. So people think that the Greater London accent, which is kind of clipped and fast, or received pronunciation like my accent, is a standard British accent. But the regional, just somebody's accent doesn't mean that they are stupid.
And I'll just underscore that this exists all over, not just in the UK, but there's a perception, and I guess it goes to whatever standardized form has been endorsed by, you know, broadcasting arms or broadcasting organizations that say this is the way to speak. And BBC has done that with RP. So in the US, it was the original 3 networks that we had decades ago that had national news, and they would be broadcasting with an accent of a person's, you know, speaking like they would in Kansas or somewhere in the Midwest, as opposed to somewhere in the South or the Northeast or something like that. Interesting stuff. Let's get back to a few more fun little interesting things about the language. If you have some things, I'm sure you have got a few things up your sleeves, maybe a few things in your pocket that you can reveal about ways of speaking, idioms and phrasing that are just kind of interesting and cool. And what are some of those that really strike your fancy?
Tickle my fancy, say. Tickle my fancy.
Tickle your fancy.
So, tickle your fancy. It means to kind of get you pique your interest, you know?
Yeah.
Piqued as opposed to Peaked. Yeah. What tickles your fancy? You might say, oh, I fancy a cake. What flavor tickles your fancy? It's like, what gets you interested? I love the one, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because that's not true. Mad dogs and Englishmen. So they were known as mad dogs and Englishmen. So only an Englishman would do something stupid like that. Other idioms that spring to mind. Oh, somebody's a dark horse. Means there's more to them than meets the eye. That's a really good one. A wolf in sheep's clothing. They have the same. A lot of the idioms in Farsi translate directly into English, actually, really interestingly. A wolf in sheep's clothing, for example.
Yeah, I've heard that. And some Arabic ones as well. They are easily translated almost word for word. What about when you're talking about these idioms and if somebody wants to learn some idioms, especially as someone who's new to the language and wants to acquire the language, they think, I need to learn idioms. I need to learn all kinds of idioms. And then as they look into these, they're like, what? like, how am I going to use this? And when am I going to use it? I mean, how should people even be approaching idioms as learners?
You have to have a good command of English to use idioms. For example, a beginner using an idiom might be a bit out of place because it's the structure around the rest of the language. Teach yourself 5 a day is what I would say, whenever you have time, and listen to English films, radio, TV stations to listen to how we speak. In English, we don't speak formal English because everything is peppered with an idiom or a slang word. So if you really want to speak like a native and learn idioms, expose yourself to English speaking platforms, is what I would say, where there are native speakers. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. I think for a lot of the learners that we've come across, they've learned through text, not through speech, mostly, especially when they're younger. They're learning by reading and being told this is how you put words together, but they're not really getting the practice of speaking and interacting with others. What else did I have? I had
Yeah.
a dog's dinner.
Oh,
What?
yeah. She was dressed up like a dog's dinner. It means that somebody is really dressed to the nines, really overdressed. Or when it's an older woman, isn't it funny how these are so sexist? And mutton dressed as lamb is an older woman trying to imitate a younger woman by wearing younger woman's clothes and things.
Man, there seems to be a sense of arrogance that someone is expressing by saying that, right? Is that a class-oriented thing?
Absolutely. That was a man. I'm sure that was a man who made that up because I don't think a woman would say it about another woman, actually, but who knows? But so offensive, mutton dressed as lamb.
I guess old maid
So
is
offensive.
also old maid, right? That's somewhat sexist. It's
Yeah, and spinster,
a spinster.
old
Yeah.
maid,
It
spinster
says
of this parish.
so the words say more about the people and the time than they do about the language itself, right? Let
Here's
me
a
know if you
knowledge.
need to get up for a second and go spend a penny. I just came across this phrase that I didn't know. I didn't know that meant going to the bathroom. Do you actually use that?
No, no, I just say I'm going for a pee. We never say I'm going to the bathroom. We say I'm going for a pee or I'm going to the loo or the toilet. We never say spend. Well,
So
my
this
granny might say she's going to spend a
so
penny, but
these are out of use.
it's
These are no longer.
older people might say going to spend a
Yeah.
penny. But for men, we have point Percy at the porcelain.
What? What is that?
For a man, okay, so a man to go and spend a penny is point Percy at the porcelain.
Oh, Point
You get it?
Percy. Oh, so Percy being the okay, got it.
Yeah.
To Point Percy.
Yes, point at the porcelain. Yeah, that's what we would say. Well, I wouldn't say obviously, but that's what sometimes people say. Oh, I'm going to powder my nose is another one.
Yeah. But I thought that also meant just to freshen up. They didn't actually have to be urinating or anything like that.
No, it means it's a kind of umbrella word for whatever you're going to do in the bathroom. Going
Yeah.
to powder my nose.
Yeah.
It's a polite way of saying that you need to be excused. So yes, spend a penny. So
Well,
funny.
until I saw the
My
movie,
grandmother used to say that.
I thought the Full Monty was just the name of the movie.
No, yeah,
All right.
full Monty.
Well, this has
Yeah.
really been an interesting conversation. And I do mean that sincerely, not sarcastically. Sometimes we'll say, oh, that's
Yeah,
very interesting. It was really interesting meeting you.
yeah, not.
No, it was it was
Yeah,
actually an interesting conversation, and we scratched the surface a little bit, to use another idiom, about some of these words and references that we
yeah,
use
we
in the
did.
English language, and
Yeah.
also we dove a little bit into your own personal experiences. Teaching and interacting with others, trying to improve their language skills, and to give them a perspective from someone who has lived it
Mm.
from day one. Do you have any last closing words or thoughts or ideas that you want to share before as we wrap things up, in terms of maybe advice or approaches that you would recommend for people trying to get a better appreciation for the language?
So Rome wasn't built in a day. You have to be patient when you're learning any language because the only way you'll be fluent is to either marry somebody from the country you're trying to learn a language from or go and live in it. So be patient. And everybody learns at different speeds and has different abilities. So don't be embarrassed if you're not speaking as well as you think you should be. That's my 2 pence worth of advice.
And I'll take those 2 pence worth. That's probably worth more than 2 cents. So I'll take that. Thank you very much, Anna. I really appreciate it. Also known worldwide as Anna English. And also very a great admirer and lover of the language. Appreciate you being here, taking the time to have this great, interesting, and worthwhile discussion. We'll hopefully get a chance to do this again. Thank you.